I have spent 45 years of my life entangled with the tiger. And it's all about saving tigers for the future. I've spent 25 years working with federal and state governments, most of the time failing in my endeavors to persuade them on how to save the tigers. So today we are going to look at a very small, sharp action plan that could save tigers in the future. What we have to do is to overhaul the bureaucracy. So let's start first with the Indian Forest Service. In the 1960s, this was a state service. Every state government had a forest service. It was called the Special Forest Service, and it was changed to an All India service. We have to go back to the state service. We do not want a man from Karnataka posted to Rajasthan and a man from Andhra Pradesh posted to Himachal. They spend 5 years learning the language and sometimes even 15 years understanding the nuances of the state. We need the best people in the state to look after the forests and tigers of that state. So let's change the Indian Forest Service. Let it become a special state service, very prestigious, very high-powered. It doesn't need to be an all India service. The second point, and very important, is the federal mechanism. We have a National Tiger Conservation Authority where deputed forest officers from different state governments come in for 5 years and pass their words of wisdom and advice to the states. And most of the time, this is based on sheer ignorance. Nobody understands the needs of the tiger. So let me say very clearly that the National Tiger Conservation Authority should be headed by an independent expert. And there should be an examination of all forest officers that wish to join this authority. It should also include and recruit people of outstanding experience in working with tigers. So it should be a mixture of the best in the Forest Service and the best outside the Forest Service. And all of them have to sit through an exam about tigers to be a part of this NTCA. Because good advice to the states is essential. At the moment, the states get bad advice. Now we come to the states. The Special State Service must focus entirely on protection. On how do you look after the habitat of tigers? How do you manage tigers? How do you run anti-poaching squads which are effective? How do you get local communities involved in protection? How do you get intelligence operations going in villages that ring our tiger reserves? This is the primary role of the Forest Service of the state, and they should focus on it. Of course, there are many other issues involved in looking after forests. So I am suggesting that in the states there be a wildlife commission. Every state government must have their wildlife commission, which has one part of it dealing with the science of the area, scientific research, scientific management of habitats, one part dealing with local communities. How do we launch mitigative measures that provide relief to local communities, that get them in the role of protectors, that don't keep them in the role of observing what's going on? They have to be engaged in what's going on. And thirdly, and really important, we require independent people to come into this commission to look at tourism, because the future is going to be in revenues from tourism, how you use those revenues for local communities, how you use them for protection. So the wildlife commissions of the state become an independent body which looks at the future of the tiger and other wildlife, because other wildlife is a part of the tiger's ecological system. Never forget, when you save the tiger, you also save the butterfly. And that's what's important. I won't go any further. These 4 or 5 issues need to be resolved immediately. When you have this kind of reform, then you move ahead to save wild tigers the way they should be saved. You have to understand their needs. And politicians who most of the time are ignorant will learn through this process, because the executive arms that take decisions would have been empowered, would have been educated, would have to be the best that our nation can provide. There is no time to waste. It is not that difficult to flesh out an action plan, make it a model for a state government, and start work. The best talent in this country is waiting for governments to respond, for governments to move out of their lethargy, for governments to move forward and keep the wild tigers safe. We have, after all, half the world's population of this animal. Let's start work.
Yeah.
You cannot see scenes like this without radical reform. And you have to start somewhere so that after this reform is done, we can make some amendments in the Wildlife Protection Act. We can then talk about rewilding. We can then talk about private conservancies. We can then talk about how we engage independent experts in decision making. But let's start from the alphabet A to get to the alphabet Z. If we don't do this, the future of the tiger, as I have known that tiger, is going to be dim, torturous, and gloomy.